Good morning. Happy Saturday. And this is a little bit of a change for all of us, but welcome to the Pin Strike Express. Unfortunately, not unfortunately, Maz is not here. He's with his kids, and we never take away from that. But I am Uncle Tats. I'm here with NFE, and joining us today is the one and only Rich Rivera. And apologize also for coming in a couple minutes late. The three of us were just kind of bullshitting and just completely lost track of the time. But Rich, how is everything going? And welcome to the Pinstripe Express on the Pinstripe Chronicles channel.
Well, thank you for having me, Uncle Tats, NFV. Shout out to my guy Mazza for welcoming me on here for the Pinstripe Express. It's a Saturday morning. You know, we're kicking off the weekend. It's looking like a beautiful day out there as the sun is beating on my face as we speak. So I am just looking forward to enjoying some good weather. And listen, the closer we get to the season, we're just going to see some better and better and better weather days. So I couldn't be more excited.
It's definitely spring's in the air. The sun is out. This is what we wait for all year. It's not. We don't wait for Christmas. We don't wait for our birthday. We wait for baseball. That's kind of just the way things go. I was joking around with one of the guys I work with at night, and I'm like, he was like, yeah, it really sucks that we have to work on opening day. I said, well, I took off. I haven't worked on opening day in 15 years. I hang out in the neighborhood. I'll hit the local bar, or I'll sit at home, and I'll just absorb as much baseball as I can.
Mm-hmm.
That's I'd rather have opening day off than Christmas. That is my holiday, and they all know it, which is awesome. My boss is supportive of it. He's awesome, and it also helps. He's a Yankee fan, so
that always helps.
But it's awesome, though. It really is. But when you talk about the season beginning, one of the things that gets evaluated are the players that are thriving during the spring and the ones that may just be a tick behind. And that's what I want to focus on to start the show is the guys that you may not have thought were going to have as good of a spring as they are. The surprises. And I think the surprise for me has got to be Stroman. Stroman has actually pitched very, he's put up some good stats this spring. He has the lowest ERA on the pitching staff. I think he's ready. He's embraced the pressure of the pinstripes. And as much as people try to dismiss it, that is a huge factor. You can prepare for it all you want. When you wear that uniform, that weight itself just gets heavier. That's a heavy uniform to wear, and Stroman's lived up to it.
Yeah, I mean, I'm happy with Stroman so far, and I know his last start wasn't the greatest, but outside of that last start, I mean, he's pitched well. I have no complaints. I'm confident with Stroman. I don't have any doubts in Stroman. I have doubts in another pitcher in the rotation, but Stroman to me though, I mean, he's got the stuff. He's got that. He looks like he's got that bulldog mentality. So, and he wants to play. He wants to pitch for the Yankees. He wants to play for the Yankees. So he's made that known, and he even took a pay cut too. Just let's think about that. So,
yep.
He certainly did. I guess I would question, especially since it's really newsworthy then. What do you guys feel about Marcus Stroman denying the opening day start in Houston? And I understand if he was still on his, if he wants to stay on his pitching regimen and he does want that ball on the home opener come April the 5th. But I don't know, guys. I took it a little bit, weird that Stroman just didn't want to take the ball day one, considering all the news surrounding the Yankees ace.
And if I'll let you take that one first, because I'll.
I don't know. I don't know if it was weird to me, Rich. I didn't really take it as weird personally. That's just me. But I don't think he wanted to mess up his flow. I think he was, it sounded like he just wanted his eye. He had his eyes set on opening at Yankee Stadium, so he probably didn't want to ruin his rhythm, right? That would be my guess. And he's already the number 3, number 4 starter, right? Or number 3. I thought, yeah, three. So it would have made more sense if Rodon was the opening day starter, but he's not. I think that would have made more sense. I'm not sure, why they were considering Stroman, but I wouldn't have put Nestor in that role. But for Stroman to turn it down, I mean, I don't know. It doesn't bother me that much, but I'd love to hear from you guys.
We'll get to the opening day decision with Nestor in a second. Mm-hmm. As far as with Stroman's comments, mm-hmm. I have no issue with it. I really think it's being blown out of proportion. Yeah. When we talk about athletes, we talk about routine. We talk about their regimen. And I think if I had to try to get into Stroman's head, Stroman got himself so hyped up and was prepared. He was really looking forward to pitching the stadium home opener. That I think that his mind is, he wants to showcase himself for the fans, not the sport. He's already, his resume speaks for itself. And I think that he does want to stay on his routine because he wants that home opener. And he was trying his best to be as, friendly about it and non-controversial as possible. But we all know, I said it the other day, Rich, on the morning show yesterday, actually. These media guys, they are looking for anything for a click or a story. So they are going to twist it any way they can to have those little clips they can put on social media and people run to check out their show. So there's a lot of times I don't think they're saying what they really feel. They're saying what they think that will get the attention or keep a story alive because it's a dead cycle where there's nothing going on. And that's what we're getting from this. It's not that big a deal. All right. So he's not going to start the season in Houston. It's not a huge, I think the whole thing is bullshit. When people will be like, oh, he's a coward. Oh, how could he doesn't want the pressure of no, he'd rather pitch at Yankee Stadium. He'd rather pitch at that home opener.
And I think that's pretty much.
You talk about a guy that wants to accept the pressure. That's pressure.
And Uncle Tats, I think that's pretty much the answer. I mean, Marcus wants that ball for that Yankee Stadium home opener because it's an honor to him. So I can understand the whole training regimen thing. To me, I feel like that's a mask over what Stroman actually wants. He wants that home opener ball. And I think I'd almost respect it if he had came out and just said that that's exactly what it was. Where I struggle to believe, and guess, trust me, I have issues with how the media has been reporting on things over the past few years in certain different aspects outside the sports space, politics, all that. But we're not going to get into that. That's not today's conversation. My issue is, Stroman wants that ball opening day. So on the home opening Yankee Stadium, it is an honor for him. So why not? But we live in a weird world now with Major League Baseball, where in the past, you're asked to throw the ball on opening day. You say yes. No questions asked. It's an honor, and I don't care. My thing is, if that March 28th game was not in Houston, and it was at Yankee Stadium, Stroman's saying yes.
He's taking the ball.
He's taking the ball. So why can't he be transparent and just say, yeah, I want the ball for the first game at Yankee Stadium. I was a New York native. It'd be an honor. And I think I can respect that a little bit more. But to dodge it with the training regimen thing, which I'm sure partially true, bothers me a little bit as a fan.
Just to play the other side real quick, he may have said something like that. It's just not being leaked out by the media.
Yeah.
So media likes to show certain things. They like to not show certain things. So
absolutely.
Just to throw it out there, because when it comes to media, there's a lot of questionable things. But
of course,
again, that's a different conversation right there.
Yeah, and the timing was perfect to Joe's comment here. The conversation should have even been leaked.
Yeah. That's true too.
I think they, they're transparent in the wrong things. And we're going to steer into everything with the with Judge and how they're handling, the information coming out on him and with Cole. But real quick before we get back into it, who is pitching on opening day, I want to give a quick shout out to the chat. I want to say good morning and thank you for waking up with us. The 9 o'clock. We got FL Diver. Joan is in the house. Joe, welcome. Good morning. Who else we got in here? We got Jonathan's in here, I'm sure. Stephen B, what's going on? And we appreciate you all. If you haven't already, hit that like button, hit that sub button. You see it on your screen. Click it. And also keep the comments coming. We enjoy the interaction. Why do you think I'm still trying to wrap my head around why they chose Nestor over Rodon? It just doesn't make sense. If Rodon was your number 2, you would think, logic, which Yankees we know don't always carry, but from our baseball minds, logic would say everybody just goes up a spot. So,
right.
And I have nothing against Nestor. This isn't why Nestor shouldn't. But it's more of an argument for me of why Rodon should have the ball, because he's not your middle of the rotation guy that you're not too sure of. That's where Cortez is. He's the one that's, he hasn't looked the sharpest this spring.
No.
So that really leads me to wonder what do they have against Rodon? Are they that shook up from last year where they just don't want to start the season off on the wrong foot? Or do they have that much faith in Nestor from the last time when Cole was having his struggles to start the season? Nestor was pitching like the ace. So is it more that they understand that Nestor he could handle the pressure, or they don't trust Rodon? Which do you think it is, Rich?
I mean, I agree with you. In years past, if you lose your number 1 pitcher, everybody slots up. You lose your number 2 pitcher, everybody slots up from the 3. So the fact that Rodon's not getting the ball, it is telling on how they feel about him opening up the season after, a nightmarish first year. And the optic of you're paying this guy just about $27 million to not grab the ball day one when your ace and reigning Cy Young Award winner is on the shelf. It's very odd to me why they are not going down that route. And here's the other thing, too. Again, I kind of mentioned before how, being asked to take the ball at opening day is an honor. But I also got to think it's a confidence boost, too. So for a guy like Nestor on the flip side of the house, if you're telling Nestor, hey, you're our guy, you're grabbing the ball day one against Houston in Houston, I have to think that's a shot of confidence to Nestor. And that would have applied the same for a guy like Rodon, and that would apply the same for a guy like Clark Schmidt. So I'm with you, Tats. I think Rodon should have been the one asked to take that ball that first day. I mean, if we're just going to base it on performance this spring of guys who are coming in healthy, I think it's got to be Stroman. But, obviously we just covered the Stroman thing at length. But yeah, I'm with you. I think Rodon should have absolutely been the ask for that game. I'm surprised that he's not.
Yeah, I mean, Rodon would have made the most sense. I mean, he made the most sense. I'm not sure why the Yankees didn't ask him to start, but Nestor is the big question mark for me in that rotation. I'm confident in the other guys, even Rodon, but yeah. Nestor he's the big question mark for me. Maybe this is his time to prove himself that he's got the stuff. Maybe he comes out in that opening day against Houston and he comes out and shows that he can do it. So, this could be a motivator for him, because sometimes you need to put the pressure on these guys to go out there and prove themselves. And that, the last year was an absolute fluke and it's not a representation of who they were or who they really are. So this is Nestor's opportunity. That's the way I see it right now. So, whether I had a feeling it was going to come down to Nestor or Schmidt, honestly, but for whatever reason, I think they were trying to set up Rodon and Stroman on different dates. However they had it planned, I don't know, but just something told me it was going to be Nestor. or Schmidt for opening day. But Nestor, you know what? Let him go out. Let him go out there. If he's the pitcher that we think he is, then he'll pitch well. So this is his opportunity to shine, the way I see it. And he's the biggest question mark for me. So I want him to prove me wrong.
Yeah, I think it is coming down to like what John was saying in the chat. You know, they might just want to keep Stroman and Rodon on their routine.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and it just got all misconstrued in the way that it was reported. That's why I was saying it's nothing against Nesta. You know, look, he's getting the ball. I do have confidence that he can, you know, get us, you know, he can keep us in the game. You know, because I think the other thing, you know, Rich and I've brought this up, and we've interacted in the chats on this, but you know, now that we could actually discuss it, you know, in a more open area, you know, the offense this year is going to take the pressure off.
Yes,
they're not going to have to pitch a perfect game because the Yankees are struggling to put up that second run throughout the game. You know, this is a lineup that can put up 2 runs every inning if everything is clicking. So, do you think that also is influencing the way that they handle the pitching staff?
I think so, because I've gone on record and said I think the Yankees lineup right now, if healthy and locked in, is probably one of the best put together lineups I've seen in my lifetime. About, you know, baseball fan for almost 30 years now. So yeah, it's absolutely. I think that's definitely going to take a lot of pressure off the pitching when your offense should be more than capable of putting up 6 to 7 runs on any given day. I mean, that lineup's going to be really fluid if healthy at the end of the day. You know, if you have your guys in there, and again, we're monitoring the Judge situation, this is going to be an unbelievable lineup for the Yanks. And they're going to win a lot of ball games. Hey, if you look at the last few years of playoff knockouts, what was the main reason why the Yankees lost those games? It wasn't because of their pitching. It was because of their lack of offense. So this is going to be a completely different dynamic now that would call out, will the Yankees offense shine and will the pitching drag them down? I think this Yankee team can at least survive with the lineup themselves until about mid-June, when, you know, you're going to start to see those first trade deadline deals headline the news. I think this team can survive until then, regardless of what's going on with Gerrit Cole or not. And then that's when you can make your moves to your pitching. But the offense is going to keep this team in the race.
Yeah. So to Rich's point, this offense looks a lot better than they were going into 2023. So there is more trust in this lineup going into this season than there was last season. And that was something that they needed to address in the offseason, was the bats. The pitching was not really the concern. It was the bats. The bats were they couldn't score a run to save their lives. You know, if they were down 1-0, that the games, they couldn't score a single run. They made it made it look like they were down like 6-0. You know, scoring 1 run was an absolute mission for them last year. But going into this season, the bats should absolutely help. The bats should absolutely help, and they should help this team win. Hopefully the pitching can hold their own, right, with Cole's absence. If the pitching can hold their own and the bats come alive and they're hitting the way they're supposed to, then these next 10 to 12 weeks, I would say they'll be in a good spot. But everybody needs to start playing together. They need to click together. There needs to be that team chemistry, which on the offensive side, there's definitely that chemistry there. I like what I'm seeing there. The pitching now just needs to hold their end as well.
Yeah.
So,
we mentioned Stroman, as one of those guys that's kind of risen to the occasion this spring. And what's going on, Davey? Welcome back to the chat. We missed you as well. But is there an arm that's been out there where it's leaving you doubt if they're going to be effective this year at this point in the spring? And we know the spring numbers are what they are. They all go away on opening day. But is there a guy that you're like, I just want to see more? NFA, we'll go to you first.
As far as offense or pitching?
No, pitching.
Oh, just pitching. Who I want to see more of?
Like, who'd you expect to have better outings?
I could take it.
Go ahead.
I'll say Ron Marinaccio. And Marinaccio was competing for a bullpen spot at the end of the day when the Yankees kind of lost Lou Trevino and Scott Efros again from the beginning. But Ron Marinaccio was a guy in 2022 was in the conversation to potentially close games mid-season, because this is where we're talking about the dawning of Clay Holmes. Aroldis Chapman was on the shelf, and Marinaccio stepped up into a big role for the Yankees so early on to his career. He hasn't been that same pitcher since. And I was really hoping that he'd have a nice turnaround for this spring, especially again, there's a couple of bullpen spots still open that the Yankees are going to have to fill those roster spots with. And Marinaccio thus far in the spring in 7 games, 8.59 ERA, not great. So was looking forward to seeing more from the kid, but he does have a couple of options remaining. So it's going to be another, AAA start for him, barring any more health concerns with the Yankees bullpen.
So for me, I want to see more of Will Warren. He's pitched well every time he's pitched, but I want to see more of him. If he's Major League Baseball ready, right? And since the Yankees are not going to have Cole for about 10 to 12 weeks, I want to see more of Marinaccio, or not Marinaccio, Will Warren, just because I think if he's Major League Baseball ready, the Yankees could plug him in. Instead of, exploring these free agent options, or if they're going to trade for somebody, let's give this kid an opportunity. Let's see what he's made of. I know some people may not feel the same way, but it's time to start giving some of these young guys an opportunity to pitch, right? We've given other players in the past an opportunity. They've done well, right? They've had success with the Yankees, but I want to see more of Will Warren personally. I want to see him. I would love to see him start some more games in spring training, or if not start, but pitch. I want to see him pitch more.
Yeah, Warren is definitely. I want to see them use him more in that starter and not just a couple innings here and there.
Yeah.
I want to see them start revving him up a little bit. But Marinaccio definitely is a great name to throw out there, because that's who I was thinking of. I thought that they should have moved him already. He should have been in a trade package before he pitched. His value is up, and that's where the Yankees get into those hiccups, because it's hard to move good. It's hard to pass up on effective pitching, but sometimes there has to be a means to an end. Mm-hmm. There were packages you could have put him in for to fill other needs. Maybe you were able, unfortunately, Devin Williams got hurt, but they didn't have they were pretty good closers that were on the market that you could have moved and shuffled your bullpen around for, especially with the way that Beater's been pitching. Luis Gil, his role on this team is still undetermined. Efros, when he comes back, what his role is going to be, he's still up in the air. So I understand where they're hesitant to move pitching, but sometimes you have to sell these guys when they're high. That's unfortunately that's just the nature of the business. Yeah, Birdie also, Donnie, good name to throw out there.
Oh yeah,
Birdie's been he's looked like a stud. Hamilton's looked really good. Petit, I know Morris has good numbers. I haven't watched him pitch because I like to use my eyes, which is because I go by the eye test. The numbers are the numbers. Yeah, that part of it is what it is.
I'll add another name to that because you mentioned Birdie. I'll say Dennis Santana, unless my eyes are wearing out. I need to go see an ophthalmologist, but Dennis Santana has looked fantastic for somebody who's kicked around the majors and was a Met not too long ago. He's been touching about a 99-100 out of the bullpen. I think that's another guy that you could see really grab a spot at the front end part of the bullpen mix.
Yeah, he's definitely another good name. And then another name that FL Diver brought up, I want to see him pitch more. I know he hasn't had great outings with Santos. maybe give him some more opportunity and see what, how he does. That's another name. But I wanted to ask you guys this question real quick because you both brought up Marinaccio. So do you think the Yankees potentially could trade him? Is there a possibility?
I think he's got to provide more. I think he has to provide a little bit more value. Unfortunately, I mean, right now his value is down. I mean, listen, I think there are teams that are going to always want to be in on controllable pitching, and I don't think Marinaccio is going to be a free agent until I believe 2027, if I'm not mistaken. So he's got some time to go, but he definitely needs to get back to that form that he once was in 2022 before the Yankees can deal him for something worthwhile.
Because he's one of those guys to me that was potentially a tradable piece, especially with the amount of bullpen pieces that the Yankees have.
Absolutely.
But he was just one name that I thought of that, he could be one of those guys that could be packaged in a trade. But, he could start out like you said. So that's what I was wanted to get your guys' thoughts on that.
Yeah, no, I think the avenue for Marinaccio to be moved for any type of significance would have been before pitches and catches.
Mm-hmm.
I think now that they're seeing, he's not really back to his real form, and I think he can get back to that.
Oh, yeah,
I don't know about that. But because you already had that wave of the up and down, are they going to be as quick to want to grab that? And I think that's where his value got kind of damaged a little bit. You might not get he might have to be a guy that's thrown into a deal, but he's not a guy they're going to call for. Where I think if they would have said that, Marinaccio is a guy, that we're looking to move to make, and it was just like we if they would have traded Marinaccio for more prospects to make room on the 40-man for Warren, like that's something I think fans could have accepted. Because that's also the other factor to it is fans get attached to players really quick, so it's hard to move on from guys sometimes because you have that emotion with that, especially when you're watching 162 plus games a year with the playoffs. You feel like they're a part of your life, and it's hard to just move on from it. So I think Marinaccio was one of those guys that should have been moved. It would have sucked for me. I liked him. I still do like him. Same thing with Monty. I hated the move, but it made sense when you got past the emotional part. It didn't work out for either party. Well, Monty got the World Series ring, but as far as us, we didn't really. We didn't. The fans, I think, lost in that deal.
The Harrison Bader also did carry the Yankees almost single-handedly throughout that playoff run. If it wasn't for Houston being, bullies as they always are every postseason, probably could have gone farther. I mean, I understand it, and still on paper, Yankees lost that deal. 100% they lost that deal. There was no need to move on from pitching, especially when you think about the optics of that deal. The Yankees moved Monty in hopes that they were going to land Pablo Lopez from the Marlins, and that conversation fell through. And so, I don't know, bad business optics. Like, why would you make the one move thinking that you had another move secured? So it was weird. It was weird from the start. I mean, again, the Bader noise in the postseason was great. Ultimately, though, Yanks lost that deal.
So I wanted to touch up on that Pablo Lopez deal. I from what I understood, it sounded like the deal was done, but apparently the Marlins asked for another player from the Yankees.
Yeah.
I don't know who that player was, and apparently that killed the deal altogether. So they had Pablo Lopez. They had him. I think I want to say it was like a last minute thing from the Marlins, and the Yankees told them no.
I think at the last second they wanted to add Peraza, and it would have been like a 5-for-1 type of deal. And they were, and they felt that 4-for-1 was significant enough. But I did hear that Peraza was the one that they wanted that killed the deal.
That killed the deal. Yeah. I'm gonna get the names in a bit, but yeah, the Pablo Lopez deal was, again, to me, if you don't have that deal confirmed, You
Right.
can't make that deal
Exactly.
with the Cardinals. I mean, it made no sense for me. Like from a business aspect of it, why would you secure that deal when you thought you had this one locked up? That one should have been signed, sealed, delivered before you made that trade with St. Louis. And you were talking about a completely different playoff, especially now looking how great Pablo Lopez has been over the last couple of years.
Mm-hmm. No, absolutely, and no, I'm with you. I wish they would have the deal would have been official. Then they could have dealt Monty. Then, yeah, that Monty deal it hurt, as a fan.
Yep.
But I understood why they did it though. I mean, they needed a center fielder. Bader did help, and he brought a different type of energy to the team at that time. He did help them win in the playoffs, and when he made his season debut last year, I mean, the team was playing much different. He brought that fire, but unfortunately for Harrison Bader, it was just he was too injury prone. That was his problem. And he was injury prone when he was with St. Louis, and with the Yankees, it just didn't stop. So yeah, at the end of the day, when you look at it now, maybe that deal shouldn't have happened, but I understood why the Yankees did it. So we could look at it both ways.
That actual deal, according to Ken Rosenthal, was the Marlins offered Pablo Lopez and Miguel Rojas, who was a veteran middle infielder, in exchange for Gleyber Torres and Oswald Peraza.
Oh, they wanted them both.
Well, they wanted them both. I mean, Gleyber, I would have understood, because I know they were trying to trade Gleyber for a little while now. But then, Oswald, I understand why the Yankees didn't want to give up Oswald Peraza back then, because he was part of
blue chip.
Yeah, he was a blue chip. He was part of their future along with Volpe, So from that standpoint, I understand why the Yankees didn't do it, but I think that would have been I think Gleyber Torres for Pablo Lopez, and who's the other name you said? Sorry.
Miguel Rojas.
Miguel Rojas. I think that would have been a fair deal for the Marlins. I mean, they would have gotten a good second baseman in Gleyber, and we would have gotten a good middle infielder along with a good pitcher. So at that time, again, I understand why the Yankees didn't do it, and Peraza at that time had value. There's also that.
And that's why I think Donnie's comment here. Not that he's wrong, but I think it changes the outlook of it, right? The reason that Peraza's value is down was because Miami backed out of that deal. And they're the ones that were like, all right, time's up. They put their pencils down. They were like, if we're not getting this, then we're not talking anymore. Because then Torres would have been moved on from, and then you would have had the infield of the future, like the Yankees claimed, of Peraza and Volpe in the infield. Everything would have fallen into place. Miami got a little greedy. They wanted both, they wanted two stud players, and it wasn't going to happen. So that's one of those. It sucks that, Cashman had to say no to the deal, but you can't blame him for that one.
Yeah, because when it comes to, and I've said this many times, Rich, and tell me if you all agree, and Tats, you as well. When it comes to the Yankees, the Yankees tax is real. Whenever teams try to negotiate with the Yankees, as far as trades go, they're always trying to ask for the best of the best, the top of the top. They're constantly just trying to fleece the Yankees. So I don't blame Cashman for putting his foot down and saying no to some of these guys. I mean, I'm sorry, but that's the way I feel. And I know some folks don't like Cashman, but in some cases, I don't blame him for not pursuing certain trades with other teams. And we saw that with the whole Dylan Cease thing. For example, the White Sox were not backing off of Spencer Jones, and the Yankees made it clear that Spencer Jones is not available. So I don't know who they included in that package, what package they proposed. I mean, I wasn't in the room, but they were not. They were saying, no, we want Spencer Jones. The Yankees said, no way. That's their number one prospect. So there's no way that they were going to trade him for Dylan Cease.
Yeah, and I think on the Yankee perspective, and I believe I'm totally bought in on Spencer Jones. Not only just seeing it up close in Somerset, but hearing the reports from great guys like Dane Huber, Shout out to Dane and the work he does over there. But yeah, Spencer Jones is the real deal. The perspective that I had to like take a step back on is the fact that Drew Thorpe and Spencer Jones are only one spot removed in the top 100 prospect list for the pipeline. And if the White Sox felt for that deal to work, they needed the starting pitcher that was going to take them for the next few years, then that's the deal they ended up taking. I actually do think the White Sox gave up a haul. The Padres gave up a haul to bring in Dylan Cease. I thought, giving up 3 top 10 prospects for a guy, he's a good pitcher. He's coming off his worst season of his career at the end of the day. So I think I think the White Sox made out pretty well at the end of the day with the trade package that they got, the 4 players they got in that deal for Cease. So, and as far as the Yankee tax go, yeah, I do think there's a bit of an inflation. I don't know how incredible it is. At the end of the day, it's hard to feed the team that's got, the history, the legacy, the championships. So I think there is an inflation, but there's also been deals that's worked out in the Yankees' benefit where they made a trade for a big player and they essentially gave up players, I think, at the right time. If we look back on that Frankie Montas deal, and even though it was a deal from the very beginning, I was cagey about because of the injury history, and you already had shoulder issues like going into the deal. Think about the package they gave up. And even though we might be a little bit too new into that deal, has any of those players really panned out for Oakland?
Nope.
Not that I can remember. Ken Waldichuk's been an up and down swing man. Luis Medina, I think, is too young into his career. I'm forgetting the other 2 players in the deal, but I think that goes to show. I mean, there are a few deals where the Yankees do pan out and look like superstars. Even from the onset of the deal, it doesn't look great.
Yeah, the other name, that went to Oakland years ago, and this is to the Sonny Gray deal. But remember the outrage about you can't move on from Caprillion. We need we needed that replacement in the because CC was at the tail end. Yep. We didn't know what was going on with some of these guys. With Paxton, going into free agency, Caprillion was like he was that untouchable for a lot of people. What's he become? Right. Which is why I think it gives validity to the guys that don't want a prospect hug anymore. They're done. They just want to win. That's all it's about.
Is he a world beater though? I mean, these guys aren't like. That's the thing too. Like, when has the Yankees traded a prospect that was highly touted that turned out being something great for another team? Like, I've had this conversation before, and I can't seem to find that one player.
No. Who's the infielder that played for Baltimore that kills us on the bases all the time?
Are you talking about Jorge Mateo?
Yeah.
Who is a glorified bench piece on 30 teams in baseball. So again, it's like you didn't give up. You didn't lose out on a guy. I know he was a number 1 prospect at one point, but you're also not losing so much by not having him here. What role is he filling on this current Yankees team?
Yeah,
outside of utility bench spot.
No, good point. Like, he was just one of those that was, like a trade that I could think of, maybe a couple of in-game instances where it was like, we had that guy. Tyro Estrada, I think is in that category as well. But to your point, these aren't guys that were like, I can't believe we traded that Hall of Famer, right? Or that All-Star. It's all right. They've played a good game, but we're not missing them. We're not regretting making the move. The one I think we and it's still undetermined yet. The Sweeney one might come back and bite us in the ass. That might be the only one, but like I said, that's still a year or 2 away. Mm-hmm. Before we see the results from that trade. But there's been because I mentioned this yesterday. There's been nobody. There's been not one prospect we've given up where it's like, what a mistake that was.
Right.
Yeah, but I think these group of these prospect players that the Yankees have now, this crop that they have right now is different. I haven't seen this much talent in prospects in a really long time with this organization. I'm not saying that they're all going to make it on the team, but there's certain names that definitely need to be kept. So, the other guys don't waste their time, don't waste their years. If you're able to trade them to get some value back, but there's certain names that I would love for the Yankees to keep. But
So I actually, I've been asking some of the prospect, again, shout out to Dane and Yankees Farm over there. I asked him this similar question. I was like, in the last couple of years where the Yankees have made these deals, sending out their top prospects out to these teams, which one do you think is the one that's going to hurt the most? And he did say Drew Thorpe, and Donnie Clark is calling him out right now. And at the end of the day, you still got Juan Soto. It's not like you gave up Drew Thorpe and you got a back end of the bullpen piece. You got a generational talent in the deal. So that could be a situation where, hey, Thorpe could be, a Cy Young winner down the line. The Yankees got Juan Soto in that deal. And hopefully it's beyond what 2024 has for Soto. We're hoping for that big money deal at the end of the year. But it was an interesting conversation we had there because, again, I think, NFE, you just mentioned it perfectly. The Yankee system has been changed. They've been overhauled over the last few years. You're going to start seeing some of these guys really knocking the door. And yeah, I do want to see these kids get their chance. And, you go back to the starting pitching. If the Yankees aren't acquiring a starting pitcher to fulfill innings while Cole's on the shelf, yeah, I think this is the perfect time to give an opportunity to a Will Warren, to a Clayton Beeter, to a Chase Hampton. You have to find a diamond in the rough somehow, right? I mean, there's got to be an opportunity here for one of these guys to showcase what they're all about. And I think right now is an opportunity.
Yeah. And here's the thing, you have to give these young guys an opportunity. Other teams are doing it, right? You see teams like the Baltimore Orioles, right? And I hate to mention the Houston Astros, but they're also good at bringing up young talent. So are the Dodgers, right? These three teams, they're good at developing talent. So it's like the Yankees can do the same with these guys, and they have the guys to do it. So, bringing up those guys that you mentioned, those guys definitely need to be given an opportunity. Donnie brings up Lalane, that they could have traded Lalane, but Lalane is a big name. And Dane Huber has brought his name up on a few occasions. He's got some good stuff, and I would love to see him come up and play at some point. There's again a lot of names. We could go through the names, but there's no, not all of them are going to make it on this team. I get that. But there's just certain names that, you need to bring those guys up. Let's try and, turn this into, what the Yankees did in the 90s. I'm not saying that they're going to be like those players from that time, but we need to repeat that. The Yankees need to repeat that. Does that, if I'm making sense here? So.
No, I think it makes perfect sense.
Okay.
No, we could always be like, you could always have that argument amongst the fans. Mm-hmm. Well, I would have rather moved this guy than that guy, or insert anybody. There's no limitation on the names. But before we get into the I want to get to the final segment here because I want to talk about the offensive side now. We know Soto, right? I think that's the given as the guy that's really stood out. How are you guys feeling about Rizzo? Oh. Is he one of those guys where it's like, as after the way that last year went, can you, is this guy you're like, this is the Rizzo that we've been waiting for? Because I don't think he's been everybody's talking about him, but I don't think he's gotten enough credit for the spring he's put together. He looks so good at the plate.
This is the Anthony Rizzo we know and love, right? Right, NFE? I mean, this is our guy.
Well, yeah, no, absolutely. I had no doubts about Rizzo. I had zero doubts about Rizzo. Here's the thing. Last season, he was playing well. We all know what happened. He collided with Tatis's hip. So that's what happened. He wasn't the same after that. We knew it. The Yankees medical staff didn't know. They handled that one badly, right? But with that being said, going into spring training, I know some people still had their doubts because of the whole concussion thing. I'm like, his concussion should be clear by now. I've had a couple of concussions, so I know. And it should be clear by now. There should be no reason why he shouldn't be clear. He's been killing it this spring training. Outside of Soto, I mean, there's a few names that have been killing it, but Rizzo's one of those guys. He's been absolutely just raking it this spring training. So I'm looking forward to seeing him play. As long as he can stay healthy and doesn't have another accident like that, that one was just a rare one. He's going to be a big contributor to this lineup.
27 Play 27 at bats for Anthony Rizzo thus far. 2 homers, 8 RBIs. That is good for a batting average of 444, 559 on base, and a 1.300 OPS. Which, of course, small sample size, but this is the strides we wanted to see from Rizzo at this point of the spring. So if you keep this momentum going into opening day and beyond, obviously we've gotten our Anthony Rizzo back that we know and love.
Oh yeah.
We'll say that those are the type of numbers he was putting up to begin the year, before the injury. That this is because, like I said, I like to watch during spring, and the thing that I look at is, their patience to the plate. Are they seeing how are they seeing the pitches? Are they working the count? And I think I was doing that more so for Rizzo than any other player that I ever have. Because that was what was really hurting him last year, is he just could not get a handle on the strike zone and was just looking so lost. And now you're seeing this year, he has that patience at the plate that we've come to appreciate from him. And he's actually making solid contact on mistake pitches. So it's definitely a situation where, Rizzo's back. He's definitely back into the stride that we were expecting for all throughout last year. The other guy that may not have the best numbers, and his name was brought up, but has really had a solid spring, is Verdugo. Verdugo's looked pretty good. He looks like he's going to be a phenomenal addition to that outfield.
Yeah, Verdugo. Yeah, he hasn't had the best numbers, but I think he's going to be effective. I still think he's going to be effective in that lineup. He's definitely he's a better pickup than what we had last year. I'll say that. Mm-hmm. So he was when the Yankees traded for him, that was an immediate upgrade. So I like the fact that the Yankees got Verdugo. Yeah, he hasn't played too well this spring, but I think when the regular season comes around, though, he's going to show up. I really do. Whether it's in a leadoff spot or in another spot, he's going to come up. He's going to put the ball in play. So I'm looking forward to seeing him. I'm happy that Verdugo's here, and Aaron Judge wanted him, so he told the front office you need to trade for him. So Aaron Judge has been eyeballing him for a while now. So
thank you, Aaron. And Alex Verdugo has been a great pickup. And as you mentioned, NFP, the numbers don't reflect it right now. But I think once we get into the crux of the season, you have a player that can flip between the leadoff spot, middle of the order, maybe even be a source of power and just keeping an offense going at the bottom half of the lineup. I mean, this is a solid pickup for the Yankees that for years, I mean, the Yankees were lacking on left-handed hitting when they have one of the greatest advantages of all sports in that short right field porch. And we've seen over the last few seasons, the only consistent left-handed batters were Anthony Rizzo and Aaron Hicks if he was switch hitting from the left side. So to now overhaul that, where you have now an Austin Wells in the mix, you have Juan Soto in the mix, you have Trent Grisham supporting the staff from the bench, and now Alex Verdugo, who I think is a little bit more who's going to be a little bit more of that middle of the order guy, not going to be like, hitting 25 homers, but he's not going to strike out as much. He's going to get on base. He's going to keep a rally going. That's the sort of player that you want in any kind of lineup. And honestly, from the other side, like not seeing him play with the Red Sox and walk off against the Yankees, which he's had in the past, it's good to have him on our side of the house. So yes, I'm looking forward to what Verdugo's got going on. But yeah, slow start to the spring, but we still have about 2 weeks left for him to start turning around, get some momentum going into Houston in the opening series. So very excited to have Verdugo as a part of this team.
Yeah, opening day is 13 days away. And,
Can't believe it.
Not that any of us are counting, right? the other player I want to get into is also Stanton, because I think he's I refer to him as the rusty cog in the wheel. He's still, it's still going to be a functional machine, but it's just going to be one of those, you just have to, you don't have the same amount of horsepower with him involved. Where do you see this all going with him? Is this going to be one of those, if things continue to struggle, they buy him out, or because they can't trade him. He's got a no trade clause. So I think that's completely off the table. I don't think that unless it's the Dodgers who are already, they've already overspent on for themselves. Where do you see Stanton in the mix especially with Grisham as a reliable bench piece?
I mean, this is a do or die year for Stanton, as far as I'm concerned. As far as how he's looked this spring, I mean, he's looked all right. I don't want to say he was bad. I mean, like, at least he's running, so that's a start. Where he was
the little victories,
yeah, small victories. Hey, I mean, he's running, but he's looked all right this spring. I want to see more, right? I want to see more of him, but this season, we don't, like, truthfully, we don't know. Are we going to get the Giancarlo Stanton that hits bombs, or are we going to see the Giancarlo Stanton that's constantly striking out at the plate? This is a hit or miss, so we don't know what version of Stanton we're going to get. Hopefully, with him slimming down and getting healthier, and it looks like his swing has improved a little bit, especially under James Rosen. Maybe we do see a better version of Giancarlo. I'm feeling good about him. I mean, I'm feeling good. I think he's feeling better. I feel like he's looking a lot more confident with himself. But we gotta wait and see.
Yeah, it's gonna be a very interesting season for Stan. I don't know if I want to go out and say make or break, because then what's the minimum we're looking at from Giancarlo? Give us 100 games, and maybe hit 230. Is that acceptable? I mean, that's an upgrade from what he was last year. I just don't know what kind of Stanton you do expect before you have the conversation of cutting him with $96 million to go for 4 years. I mean, that's a financial commitment and a half. It's not like what we were looking at about a year or so ago when the Yankees cut Aaron Hicks and it was just 2 years of $10.5 million contracts remaining, or Josh Donaldson, who had some funds remaining. Now he's obviously on the hook for $6 million, shaking golf balls in retirement. But it's just a financial commitment for Giancarlo. So I don't know if it's going to be, hey, he struggles and he's looking like that same player from 2023 and we cut him in July, with Jason Dominguez coming back and needing a defensive web gem and Trent Grisham in the outfield. I don't know if it gets to that point, but I definitely think if he has a repeat of 2023, the Yankees are going to have that conversation come the offseason. And I don't know if this guy will be in uniform by opening day 2025.
Real quick, I don't want to say they're going to cut him by midseason. I don't think that's going to happen. I could see him getting benched is more or less where I was going with that. So I want to make that clear.
That's absolutely plausible, because so my fear is with this outfield defense, how long can you go with Judge being your starting center fielder when he's maintaining a toe? How long can you go with the corner outfield you have? And Alex Verdugo finished tops in the right field Gold Glove Award finalist, but is he going to adapt to left field well? Is it going to be a situation where you need to now maybe look at a guy like Verdugo as a platoon bench with Stanton, lefty, righty off the DH spot, maybe move Trent Grisham to the outfield because he is a 2-time Gold Glover? These are conversations that are going to happen at some point if this outfield defense can't hold it down. But yeah, NFE, I think at the very minimum, if he shows signs of what he was in 2023, he's got to go to the bench. You can't give him the starting DH job every day. You just can't do it.
No,
absolutely
no.
not.
It's got to be like a platoon thing with Grisham, where it just depends, the hot bat plays, type of situation. Because you can't. And as much as I'm a fan of Stanton, it's sometimes you got to be real about it. And he's lost a step. He's not the same player that we traded for. Part of it is, it was unfortunately with his health. Part of it was the way the Yankees have handled him. So I think the blame can be thrown all around. He's made the efforts to improve himself body type wise, which, that's usually the first sign of a player that's taking himself seriously and knows that he needs to make significant changes to his game. And the way, it's almost like a pitcher that was throwing 100 miles an hour just can't do it anymore. Like Sabathia is a great example of a power pitcher that knew at time as that pitcher had passed and reinvented himself. We might be seeing the reinvention of Stanton. We just have, I haven't seen enough of it. Is at the plate, he looks better. He looks more comfortable. I think the power results will come. I know a lot of people say he hasn't even hit a home run. He's got no RBIs. That's not a player you're worrying about their home run numbers. They're going to turn on one. I think an ideal season from Stanton, hit 230, 235, knock in 35, 30, 35 home runs, and have 100 RBIs. I'll be happy. I think that's staying just below what his average should be. Giving him that little wiggle room to be like, wow, he had a great year.
Yeah, I agree about the 35 home runs, but the 230 average, I mean, in my humble opinion, I feel like that should be a higher just because of what he's getting paid. So a player of his caliber, I mean, the average needs to be a little higher, but that's just me.
Yeah, he's going to have a lot of strikeouts. Yeah, that's factored into it. Are they going to pitch around him to get to the different part of the order? So that those are the things I'm factoring in as well. Also, I don't think he's going to have a lot of games, which is going to affect his batting average.
No, I get that. I mean, to me, I think he should be, around like, I'm probably going to be a little bit higher here, but I'm thinking like 260, 270. Again, just with a player of his caliber. I'm just going at it, based on, his caliber and what he's getting paid. I mean, he needs to be up there. But
yeah.
And again, he could be hitting 230, 235. He could be. So
absolutely. And I think that's where I'm going to put him as well. And I think NFB, you would agree with it. I would think I would take like 10 less home runs if it meant 10 more points on the batting average. That would just be that would be my thing, especially for Stanton at this point in his career. If he's in the 25 to 30 home run range and he's a 240, 245, and he's playing 110 to 115 games, I take that. I'm taking that. That is an improvement compared to where he's been over the last couple of years at this point of his career, going into his age 34 season. And I think that is what could save his job for at least another season in the Bronx.
Yeah, and that's what I think that's the mode he's in right now. He's in survival mode, and athletes, you put them in survival mode. We're going to see who's going to make it or break it. And I think Stanton has the mental capacity to make it, and I think he's going to have a great season. I really do. I think he's going to surprise a lot of people once the games start to count. I'm not looking, he's one of those players, like I said, a couple weeks ago. Don't look at the spring training numbers on these guys. It's not going to be, you're going to be either overly excited or severely disappointed. And when the season starts, it's not going to matter. All the numbers get erased. It's like I said, they say now, it doesn't matter what, once you get to the postseason, nothing you did in the regular season matters. That all goes away because everything, all the numbers, all the stats hit reset.
Yeah. I mean, you're absolutely right. Based on that mentality alone, like you have to think Giancarlo Stanton and Juan Soto have the same batting average right now. They're at 0. The pitchers have the same ERA, 0. Once you get into the crux of the season, things change. Players adapt. Players get better. Who knows what's going to happen in that first set in Houston? Stanton could go off, and Soto could be the one struggling in the first 4 games. That's the course of baseball. So I can't get so warped up with the numbers. So I absolutely agree with you there, Uncle Tats. I can't get warped up into spring training numbers. I could get excited. I could look at progression. I could see a guy like Rizzo who missed, more than half the season last year, essentially 3/4 of the season, if you really want to think about it, going back to the collision. He looks like the Anthony Rizzo of old. That excites me. Like he's obviously not going to put up the numbers he's putting up now. This is a very small sample size. These are video game numbers he's putting up right now, but he's showing signs that he is going to be back to that player that he once was. But let's see what the course of the season has for us, right?
Yep.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's all we can do.
Yeah.
We are going to wrap things up. Rich, I mean, there is so much more we could dive into. It's not even funny. But we will have to get you back on and go further into it. But that is going to wrap things for us today. Rich, appreciate you coming on with NFE and I so much. Greatly enjoyed it. It's really, the friendship is growing, and I'm all there for it. Everybody in the chat, we appreciate all your comments. You guys are the MVPs of the channel. So if you haven't already, hit that subscribe button. Hit that like button, share this out with your friends, share it out with your family, share it to the guy standing on the corner. This has been the Pinstripe Express, and we want to say we're your Pinstripes of pride and play on.
Go Yankees.
Go Yankees.